If for some reason you have a condition that causes your first, second, or third class medical to be deferred, you can still fly under basic med. A lot of people don't understand that.
Pat Brown, I have called you today because I think it's important that I share with you a history lesson about medical requirements for pilots. Would that interest you, young man?
I, I, I can't wait.
Well, let me tell you, it goes back farther than I thought. I did a little research, very uncharacteristic for me, but I did some research. It started in 1926, 98 years ago, with the Air Commerce Act. That's when they first started establishing medical requirements for pilots. Then
Okay.
in 1958, which is 66 years ago, the
Okay.
FAA was formed and took over the task. And there
Right.
have been changes over the years. For 1996, and this one bugged me because they expanded the third class medical for those under 40 to 60 months instead of 24. And I noticed they waited until you and I were past 40 to do that. It was evil.
It was unfair. It remains unfair.
And then the big one is in 2017, thanks to Mark Baker, AOPA, bunch of industry people, Basic Med was born. It came into play and it was talked about in 2016. It became active in 2017. And just, well, a month ago, November 12th, I believe,
November
they
12th.
expanded it even more. And 80,000 pilots are using Basic Med now. Pat, I'm really excited about the changes they made because seriously, this could be, oh, yeah, regulatory changes.
Right.
This expands it tremendously and makes it much more utilitarian.
Yeah, the original version of Basic Med was that you couldn't fly an airplane with more than 6 seats, which basically meant you could carry 5 passengers. Now you can carry 6 passengers, so 7 people. So those few airplanes that were type certified with 7 seats, um, now you can fill all 7 seats if you so desire. Now it's Cherokee sixes, certain models of Cherokee sixes. There are very few airplanes. I think the Cessna 207 is one. There's not a lot of airplanes, but look, it does nevertheless expand what you can do under basic med. The other thing that it did was it's raised the weight limit from 6,000 pounds to 12,500.
More
That's
than
a
double.
big deal. That is
Yeah,
a
that's
big,
huge.
big deal. Um,
So now,
and,
just to be clear, that means the weight limit on the medical certificate matches the limitation on your private pilot certificate.
yeah, that's correct.
Mm.
That's correct. And the other thing that it does, and this may only affect a small number of people, but it also allows designated pilot examiners to conduct check rides under basic med up until November the 12th, when the FAA reauthorization bill went into effect. We were required to have at least a third class medical. And I suspect that knocks some people out of the running. I really am hopeful that some otherwise perfectly qualified examiners are able to kind of come back into the fold, if you will, because now they can do it with basic med. So I think that could help.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful that that will allow DPEs who are currently working to say, I can do this for a bit longer. And it is worth mentioning, this isn't like a political thing that happened because people rubbed somebody's back or whatever. This is science based. Since Basic Med came out, they do track what's the accident rate, what happens with pilots, what kind of medical issues do they have, and there is no evidence that pilots on Basic Med are having any more problems than pilots with a third class medical. So, hey, let's expand it. And what does stay the same, it's worth tossing out there, we're still limited to 18,000 feet in altitude and
Correct.
250 knots. But
Correct.
this is most of the fleet. I mean, really, from the general aviation pilot's
Yeah.
perspective, man, you can fly a lot of single engine, multi engine, VFR, IFR, just all kinds of things. And I fly under Basic Med. I like it.
Yeah. Day and night, by the way. So
Yep.
IFR, VFR, day and night aircraft now up to 7 seats, 6 passengers, and up to 12,500 pounds. The other thing that with the new wording is that basic med holding pilots can now act as safety pilots for someone doing IFR proficiency flying
Hmm.
without having to kind of nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I'll be the pilot in command for the flight. Now it just doesn't matter. If you hold a basic med, you're perfectly legal to act as safety pilot for somebody practicing under the hood. Absolutely perfectly fine for that.
Well,
The other thing, and the other thing too, Jamie, we were talking off camera a minute ago, is that the way the current reg was written, the medical, the 4 year medical was only good up to the date of the medical. So if you had your medical, in June 15th of 4 years ago, on June 15th, now you would have to have a new medical. But now the new change is that it's 48 calendar months. So it brings it into line with every other medical. It brings it into line with the online tutorial, the online medical tutorial that we have to take every other year, because that specifically said calendar months, 24 calendar months, whereas
right.
the medical part was 4 years, and that was the way it was written. And now that's been clarified to say 48 calendar months. So, in some respects, some of this, it's small changes, but they're really important changes that help us out. For those that are perhaps that are examiners, maybe retired examiners that are watching this, or active examiners that may want actually to see the um, the FAA document that says that we can fly under basic med. If you go to FAA notice N is in November 8000.386, that's
Trips
the
right off
actual
the tongue.
document. Well, yeah, I've got it written down. I'm cheating. I'm looking at it here, but it's notice in as in November 8000.386, and that's the actual document. It's only a couple of pages long, but it's chock full of the meat that we need to know to be able to do that. But basically, we can now conduct check rides under Basic Med.
I switched to Basic Med when it first came out because I loved my FAA medical examiner. I did Doc Bush up at AvDoc 51 in Kissimmee. The guy's great. I just loved him. But I wanted to experience Basic Med the way most of the population would because we talk about it in Rusty Pilots, and I wanted to be
Right.
able to tell people. I got to admit, Pat, I really like it. I take the online course, which is free. I go to see my doctor every 4 years, and it's my doctor. It's my same general practitioner I
Right.
regularly go to and talk to about my weight and my cholesterol and all that.
All that fun stuff.
It's a relatively easy thing. It's no
Yeah.
additional cost because I'd be going to the doctor anyhow. Now, your AME can do Basic Med if they choose to.
Yep.
So, really, this is a way of the FAA giving us much more latitude than we had, where it's to the calendar month, not to the day. We've got expanded utility of more aircraft that are available to us. I just don't see any downside to this. And with 80,000 pilots currently using it under the restrictions that were still in place November 11th, well over 10% of the pilot population is flying under Basic Med. I wonder how high that number is going to go because there's a lot of people who really could do just fine with Basic Med. Maybe even people who had self regulated themselves down into Sport Pilot will be less intimidated because when you do the Basic Med, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I do believe this is true, none of your paperwork goes to the FAA. It's between you and your doctor.
Yeah,
So,
the comprehensive medical evaluation checklist, CMEC they call it, which is downloadable, by the way, online. Um, that's a confidential document. In fact, your doctor, I guess, unless he or she chooses to keep a copy, doesn't even have a copy. You
yeah,
walk
but
out of there with
99,
that
no,
copy.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah,
It's
you
just
you
my
walk
way.
out with that. You walk out with that, the only copy, unless they choose to keep one. Now, and the same thing with the online tutorial that you have to take.
Mhm.
The only thing that's transmitted to the FAA is the fact that you are flying under Basic Med. That is the only thing that they see. And by the way, you can hold a Basic Med certificate and a third, second, or first class if you want. And there are a bunch of people that do that. So, and I can see the value. If you end up with a situation where you have a third class or first or second for that matter that's deferred for some reason that doesn't have any effect on your ability to fly an airplane safely. We need
Mhm.
to emphasize that we are not talking about skirting around any safety issues here. You still have to self-certify under the regs, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah. If you have an issue, you do
right,
have a responsibility. I mean, that's part of being pilot in command. If you're not
right,
up to it, you have a responsibility to ground yourself temporarily or permanently, depending on what the case is. But, I just think this has to be a great opportunity for so many people. And I really appreciate the fact that the alphabets have put the pressure on Congress. Congress took this seriously, and as part of the reauthorization included this. It is getting better and better for general aviation pilots in America. And there's not that many things you could say really are improving, but
yeah,
this is no doubt about
y-
it.
yeah. Let me finish just real quickly the thought that I was
So
that I
rudely
had.
interrupted.
Yeah, before you so rudely interrupted you, I wasn't going to say that, but because I love you like a brother, but you did interrupt me.
I'm a little
Um,
mouthy.
yeah, a little. But if for some reason you have a condition that causes your first, second, or third class medical to be deferred, you can still fly under basic med. A lot of people don't understand that because if the issue is if you're denied or revoked,
Hmm.
or if you withdraw your active application for some reason, those are the disqualifying factors. A deferral is none of those three things. It's just the FAA has decided, or the AME has decided, I can't make this decision. I'm going to defer it to Oak City, and now you just got to wait till what Oak City wants to have from you. But in the meantime, you can continue to fly under basic med. Now you can't exercise your commercial pilot privileges or anything like that. But if you're a flight instructor, guess what, folks? You can still teach.
Yeah, I've been instructing for the last few years under basic med.
Yeah.
And, it allows me that opportunity and I really do enjoy it. So I don't see a downside. I really don't. And I'm very excited about this because this just provides so many people the opportunity to stay in the game. And I believe because the original basic med was you had to have a third class as of this date.
That's
I
correct.
believe if you let your basic med lapse and come back to it after a period of time, you don't need to go for a third class again. You can renew basic med. Do you have a read on that?
No, I think that's an accurate statement. You had basic med, you had a third class with it, within the appropriate period of time. The look back to 2006, I believe it was, and but if you let it lapse, you just simply go back and just renew it.
So I think with Thanksgiving just behind us now and Christmas in the windshield, we can just think FAA Santa was very good to us this year and gave us a gift that we can all make use of if we choose to. Pat, I appreciate you covering this. This is the kind of stuff people need to know because it really is a big change for most of us.
Yep, and I'm hoping that sometime early in 2025, the Mosaic rule, which essentially is the light sport rule, will end up being finalized and will expand aircraft that are able to be flown under light sport rules, which is basically a driver's license medical. I think that's going to be a huge, huge deal in a good way for general aviation. So 2025 could be a very good year for GA.
Well, and you can count on it. When that Mosaic rule is finally enacted, I have a few things to say, and I suspect you will too. So we may do one or two or half a dozen episodes on that.
You think?
Pat, thanks a lot, man. I do appreciate it. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I will see you next time, right back here on MadPropsAero.
Gobble, gobble, and adios.